days. For his part, Donald Trump is speaking at a campaign rally in Atlanta this hour, hoping to regain the momentum the Harris campaign has stolen from him. He's also ditching the next scheduled presidential debate on ABC on September 10th, saying he's accepted a home turf debate on Fox News on September 4th. Harris's response? Nah, boo, I'll be there on the 10th. I'll be dissecting all that with our guests in a moment. But first, I want to address Trump's racist assertion that the VP turned black. If you want to know just how black Vice President Kamala Harris is, just turn to page 101 of her 2019 book, The Truths We Hold. She writes about that time as California Attorney General during last decade's mortgage crisis when she told her staff to get the chairman and CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase on the phone. He was about to kill a settlement deal with the states. Told he was on the line, Harris writes, "I took off my earrings, the Oakland in me, and picked up the receiver." Listen, Oakland is as synonymous with being black as taking off your earrings before you're about to administer a figurative or literal beatdown. If you didn't know that Harris went to an HBCU, Howard University, or is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, the first black sorority in the United States that was founded at Howard, her invocation of Oakland and earrings would be all you needed to know about her blackness. Harris didn't just happen to turn black, as trifling Donald Trump told a convention of black journalists this week. Her father was black. She was raised black. And we have her mother, Shamala Gopalan, a cancer researcher who immigrated to the United States from India for college, to thank for it. Harris writes in her book, quote, "For almost the moment she arrived from India, she chose and was welcomed to and enveloped in the black community. It was the foundation of her new American life." But Harris adds this very important point. "My mother understood very well that she was raising two black daughters. She knew that her adopted homeland would see Maya and me as black girls, and she was determined to make sure we would grow into confident, proud black women." And we have seen that confident, proud black woman on display in the nearly 2 weeks that she has been the de facto Democratic nominee for President of the United States. We saw it in the sister girl look Harris gave Senator Richard Burr when he interrupted her during her grilling of then Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. We saw it in how she paused after saying this during her visit to the Wilmington campaign office.
In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds.
And we heard it and saw it in Atlanta this week when she looked directly into the camera and challenged Trump to debate her next month.
If you've got something to say,
I haven't seen anything that black on the presidential stage since Barack Obama sang Amazing Grace. Donald Trump is so flummoxed by Harris that he's trying to wield her race and gender as weapons against her, as if they are some kind of disqualifying weight for her to bear. And that's rich coming from a twice impeached, 4 times indicted, convicted on 34 felony counts former president, who was also found liable for fraud and sexual abuse and indicted for trying to overturn the 2020 election, and steal national security secrets. If you've noticed, Vice President Harris spends little time addressing Trump's racism and misogyny. That's because Vice President Harris is not running to be the black president or the Indian American president, the woman president, or even the black woman president. She's running to be president, period. Harris is not about to let the foolishness of a mediocre and entitled white man who thinks he's better than she is deter her from her goal. And that's as black as it gets. Joining me now, Valerie Jarrett, former senior advisor to President Barack Obama. She joins me today in her personal capacity. Valerie, thank you very much for coming to the Saturday show. So you have been, I'm assuming, were a part of the vice presidential picking process back in 2008. That's what's happening apparently right now at the vice president's residence. If there's any way you could bring us behind the scenes, what might be happening in those meetings between Vice President Kamala Harris and the men who want to be her running mate?
Well, good evening, Jonathan. First of all, this is the one decision she gets to make totally on her own. She has to decide who's the right person, not only to campaign with her, but to help her and advise her in her governing once she becomes president. So it's a very personal decision. She'll look at all of the data that has been produced, the vetting, their backgrounds. She'll look to see who shares her values and her priorities, and also where's their chemistry. And then she'll make the right decision.
And should we not underestimate the role of chemistry here? It's really important that the president have a good chemistry with the person they're going to be working with every day, sometimes 24/7.
Day in and day out for 4 or maybe 8 years, chemistry is really important, and there has to be someone who will complement your skill set, someone whose advice and counsel you trust, often the last person in the room to speak to you before you make a decision. So it's important, but it's also important to make sure there's the kind of person who really does share your vision for America and how you want to bring the country together and the ways in which you want to do that so that there aren't conflicts. It's okay to have a little disagreement from now and then, that's healthy, but you do want to make sure on big picture issues that your ideas are synced up.
Mm-hmm. All right, can we talk about the role of race and gender in this campaign? Because as we saw at the National Association of Black Journalists Conference in Chicago, there was Donald Trump on stage being interviewed by 3 black women and used that as an opportunity to call into question the vice president's racial identity. She is always identified as a black woman. She's also a South Asian woman. But talk to me about how you see the role of race and gender in this campaign and whether the vice president should more directly respond to the attacks that are coming from Trump.
Well, first of all, Jonathan, to your point, she has always been clear, open, and consistent about her racial identity. Second of all, nobody gets to decide for her or speak on her behalf about that racial identity. And third of all, this is like an old playbook, and it's really gotten kind of sad. This is the same thing that was tried 16 years ago with this birther nonsense. And you know what? It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. Why? Because the American people, as evidenced by the incredible energy and enthusiasm we've seen in just less than 2 weeks for her campaign, they're really not focusing on that. They want to know who's going to fight for me, who's going to improve my life, who's going to put me first, who's going to realize that this job is not about being self-centered, but by being open and inclusive and listening to the American people. And I think the fact that she has, 3 million new donors, 2/3 of which are first-time donors, hundreds and thousands of volunteers around the country, cross-section of America coming out with the enthusiasm for her candidacy. And it's a candidacy that's joyful and hopeful and sees what we have in common and not our differences. And that is what I think resonates. So I think this old playbook didn't work 16 years ago, and it's not going to work now.
Well, to that point, though, will there come a point when Vice President Harris will have to respond more directly to Donald Trump? And I ask that question because I'm thinking of I can't believe it's been 16 years, Donald Trump's birther nonsense. But at a certain point, President Obama produced again his full form birth certificate. So at what point do you think Vice President Harris might have to, be more direct about it with him?
Well, first of all, I would remind you that President Obama did not respond to that nonsense during the campaign. The only time he responded to it was when he was trying to communicate with the American people about the importance of the Affordable Care Act, and the nonsense had become noise and a distraction. That's when he decided he had to attack it head on. Now, what I would expect is, as the vice president said, if former President Trump has something to say to her, he should say it to her face. And she looks forward to the debate that's already scheduled, that's been scheduled, and hoping that he will show up for it. So if he has something to say, he should say it directly to her. And then my guess is she will respond.
Right. That was one of my favorite moments during her rally in Atlanta. One more question for you, Valerie. Back to VP stakes. You got a favorite? Who do you think she should pick?
Well, this is the privilege of being the nominee. Whoever she picks, I will be fine with. And it is her decision and hers alone. And I have every confidence that she will pick the right person for her.
All right. We're just going to have to leave it there. Valerie Jarrett, thank you very much for coming to the Saturday show. And congratulations on being included in Forbes' Know Your Value 50 over 50 list of women who are stepping into their power in their 6th decade and beyond, a recognition that is championed by our MSNBC colleague, Mika Brzezinski. Congratulations, Valerie.
Thank you. We're like fine wine.
And we're looking at live pictures of President Trump speaking at a campaign rally in Atlanta. There's Trump speaking in Atlanta. But before, you saw the person who's joining me now, MSNBC legal analyst and former Brooklyn prosecutor Charles Coleman Jr. He's a civil rights attorney and host of the Charles Coleman podcast. Charles, thank you very much for coming back to the Saturday show. So since I've talked all about what Donald Trump said at NABJ, let's just play the offending comment, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman.
I respect either one. I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear.
Charles, the floor is yours.
So, Jonathan, I think the first thing that we have to understand is it is a mistake for any of us to allow people who are not in our community, to allow white people, to allow others to begin to become the arbiters of what is and what isn't black. It's very important to understand that the black experience is incredibly nuanced and incredibly vast throughout the diaspora. And so it does not necessarily fall in any particular stereotype or caption or cadre that people might want it to. Donald Trump does not have the space or the ability or the power to try to be the arbiter of blackness any more than anyone else outside of our community can say, you do or do not belong here. And I think that the first mistake that some of us have made is allowing that to even take root as a conversation. If there's anything that I would say around the vice president and her potential response is that while we have had an opportunity to hear her talk about race, I think this may be the point where she may need to lean into the notion of how racism is an attack that's being used against her. We've heard critics talk about when she was vice president being asked whether America was a racist country and some of the backlash that she got when she refused to acknowledge that that was the case then. Now, given everything that she's facing, it might be the ideal opportunity to revisit that comment and reframe it in terms of how she wants to talk about race and its impact on the election.
You know, I want to bring up a piece in The Atlantic from Adam Serwer, the headline being, "What Trump's Kamala Harris smear reveals." And let me read this one piece of it. It says, "The moment they show themselves to be intelligent and capable, they cease to be black, because racists define blackness as the absence of such capabilities."
I think that's absolutely poignant. And it bears repeating, particularly when you're talking about a Republican Party that would like to fashion America as a land of opportunity for all. If we're not talking about the presidential campaign, then race doesn't matter in terms of what you can achieve. Everyone can be anything that they want to. But all of a sudden, now that we are talking about the highest office in the land, we have this notion of race being injected, and now it matters. Now it's a conversation. You heard Donald Trump say at the end of his remarks, well, I'm fine with it either way. If you're fine with it either way, then why were you bringing it up to begin with? We all know that this is a poignant and really pointed issue that needs to be dealt with, not only as far as the underpinnings of this election cycle, but also in terms of the fabric of what it is to be an American. And that's something that I don't think either of these candidates, particularly Vice President Harris, needs to run from in this moment.
In the minute that we have left in this part of the discussion, Charles, one of the things I was told by a Democratic operative was that the more we talk about Trump and his comments about the vice president's blackness, that the less we're talking about what a Harris administration would offer over 4 years, or the record of the Biden-Harris administration and why the American people should entrust her with the job for 4 years. Are we being distracted, or can we do both at the same time?
You know, Jonathan, it would be nice to believe that we can do both at the same time, but it appears as though right now we're being distracted because this is dominating the headlines. This is what's in the A block. This is what people are conversing about. And I mean, I know that this is something on the heels of the NABJ and everything that's happened in Chicago this weekend. But at the end of the day, it is taking people further and further away from whatever policy measures, whatever platform Vice President Harris would like to advance as the Democratic nominee. And that should be the focus, particularly heading into the DNC. So we don't want this to be a distraction. And I will say to you, even if we can do both, our focus should be on the latter, focusing on the platform, focusing on the substance, focusing on the policy.
We'll get to that in a couple of blocks later. Charles, you're sticking around at the break when I'll also be joined by author Danielle Smith. She's from Oakland, just like Kamala Harris, and why code switching and bringing out the Oakland in her is working on the campaign trail. Plus, Veep Stakes, how each potential Harris running mate could boost or hurt the ticket. You're watching The Saturday Show.
Hers can help you achieve your weight loss goals through a range of treatments, including GLP-1 injections, plus support for nutrition, hydration, sleep, and movement. GLP-1 injections starting at $199 per month. Get started today at forhers.com.
Can I get you anything besides water?
I'm trying to cut sugar.
Just add crayon.
Oh.
Tastes great, but 0 sugar.
Ah, you're all right.
The general election is all but set. Understand the race, the numbers, and the issues.
We do not know exactly what to expect, but we know enough to expect to be surprised.
With so much at stake, stay with MSNBC.
One of the things I like about what I get to do is that each day is pretty unique. I might find out that there's not a lot of new numbers in the world today, and so today's going to be a day I'm going to spend researching. The only way to really be prepared is to get it all in my brain ahead of time.
If you have chronic kidney disease, you can reduce the risk of kidney failure with Farxiga, because there are places you'd like to be. Farxiga can cause serious side effects, including ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration, urinary tract or genital yeast infections, and low blood sugar. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Farxiga and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, an allergic reaction, or ketoacidosis.
Get more from your water with sugar-free hydration. Proprietary amino acid allulose blend. No artificial sweeteners. Superior hydration than water alone. Tear, pour, live more. Liquid IV.
When surprise breakdowns happen, American Home Shield will be there to fix or replace parts of the systems and appliances you rely on every day. They help protect your time and money by connecting you with qualified pros and helping pay for covered repairs or replacements. AHS offers flexible and affordable plans for every home. Sign up today and get $100 off with code AHS100. Visit AHS.com or call 833-PLAN-AHS.
I avoided credit cards most of my life, but when I started to create a streaming platform for musicians like me, I knew it was important to build my credit to set my business up right. I heard about the Chime Credit Builder card and
When I interviewed Vice President Kamala Harris 5 years ago when she was Senator Harris, we discussed the black enough question that dogged Barack Obama in 2008, a variation of which Trump is employing against her today. Here's what she told me.
Do you remember that conversation that would happen about, is he black enough? Mm-hmm. You remember that? Mm-hmm. And I was a surrogate, and so I remember doing a few interviews, and I would talk in response to that question about Howard University. And this is what I would say. One, when you ask that question, when one asks that question, are displaying your lack of exposure to who is a black person and what a black person can be and is.
Charles Coleman Jr. is back with me, and joining us now, Danielle Smith, former editor of Billboard and editor-in-chief of Vibe, and author of Shine Bright, a very personal history of black women in pop. Thank you both, Charles, for coming back, and Danielle for joining the conversation. You know, one of the youngins on our staff, the segment producer, reminded me of this SNL sketch from 2016. Watch this.
Beyonce released a new music video that embraces her black heritage.
Beyonce video is unapologetically black.
Tribute to the Black Lives Matter movement.
Advocates for a black message.
Claims her blackness like never before.
Honey,
get in here!
Video yet.
What is it? What's wrong?
Black.
Out of nowhere.
I think Beyonce is black.
The day Beyonce turned black.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you remember seeing that in real time, but it's a genius skit that they did. But Danielle, I wanted to bring you into this conversation, because with Vice President Harris now at the top of the ticket, we have seen, or at least I'll speak for myself, I have seen a lot of code switching. I have seen a lot of cultural nods. I have seen the culture just sort of swarm the vice president in this moment. From your vantage point, tell us how you view all this stuff, from Donald Trump saying she's turned black to what we're seeing in terms of the culture responding to her campaign.
Well, let's start with the fact that the idea of someone turning black is just bizarre. To use the word of the week, it's really weird to think that someone could turn black whenever they wanted to. The thing about our vice president, to me, is that she's not switching between selves. The vice president is amazingly and beautifully being her full self. Mm-hmm. She is speaking. She is leading, and she is truly existing in the fullness of her identity and her personal and professional experience. I think people are just astounded that she's able to do all of this at the same time, because she does it so flawlessly. But it's what people are responding to. It's her ability to do that. It's very actually American to do that. It's what people are responding to, her authenticity and the truth in which she is walking.
Mm-hmm. Can I get you, because it also involves that skit was Beyonce. Beyonce almost immediately said to the vice president, yeah, you can use freedom. Like right away got involved. What do you make of Beyonce saying to the vice president, yeah, use my stuff?
I think, and let me not speak for Beyonce Knowles Carter, but let me say this. Beyonce is very committed to living in her excellence. Beyonce is very committed to blackness. She's very committed also to sharing her creativity, her music, her story with the world at large. She is into being as big and as influential and as powerful as she can be in the space in which she operates. She sees the vice president trying to do the same thing in a completely different arena. So she says, how can I help you, ma'am? How can I be of service to you? How can I be the best kind of American that I can be for you in your time of need and in this moment where you're rising to such great heights? I think it's absolutely amazing, especially when you think about how many artists, and I'm not going to name their names right now, who have been used by the vice president's competitor. Their music has been utilized by him, and they have stood up and said, "Stop it. Stop it. Do not play my music at your events." Meanwhile, the vice president is playing the music of Beyonce, one of the biggest pop stars in the entire world. And I feel like she just had her on text and said, "By all means, ma'am, whatever you need to do."
You know, Charles, given what you said in the last block, I left you out of this part of the conversation. But what you did say in the last block about us not being distracted by the race and gender comments of the other guy reminded me of a story in the Washington Post on Thursday. It was a front page story with the headline, "Trump allies want to hit Harris's record. He keeps talking about her race and gender." And it is all about how they want Donald Trump to focus on her time as San Francisco DA, California Attorney General, her time as vice president. But he keeps going back to that rut of his, focusing on her race and gender. Why do you think Donald Trump can't get with that part of the program?
Well, I don't necessarily know that Donald Trump is someone who we can expect to stay on script. We saw that in Chicago with respect to the NABJ, but I also think that Donald Trump doesn't necessarily feel strong enough about his own record to put it up against Vice President Kamala Harris's. I think there's also, however, a deeper and more strategic reason why Donald Trump continues to sort of focus on these racial tropes around what blackness is and isn't. And that is, Jonathan, is that it gives the right power. And what I mean by that is when you can limit blackness to one set of experiences and a single set of tropes, anything outside of that allows for people to think broadly and more broadly about what it is to be black and reconceptualize and reimagine that. But if you can limit that, it keeps you powerful in terms of the associations that people draw with blackness that are anti-black and that have existed for a long time. So I think that Donald Trump is very intentional in doing that, and that is something that, beyond the record, he believes is going to score more points with voters.
And that's why he keeps saying that black people can't leave their houses without getting shot. Danielle, real quick, because we got to go.
Okay. I was just going to say what the vice president has done is taken the power of language back. We lost woke. We were about to lose DEI. And what the vice president is doing is saying, the language is ours. We do not have to give it away because there's so much power in how we all communicate with each other. And she says, we're not giving it away anymore. We are taking the power of language back.
Charles Coleman Jr., Danielle Smith, what a great conversation. Thank you both very much for coming back to the Saturday Show. And up next, the runaway train that is Donald Trump. No one should be surprised that he's attacking Harris's identity, least of all his own campaign staff. But there they are, scratching their heads over why he won't start talking about the issues. I think we know why, and I'm going to talk about it with former Senator Doug Jones and Tara Setmeyer after the break.
Oh no. What if we don't get down in time to get a birthday gift for Zoe?
Don't panic. With Etsy, we can find the perfect gift and send her a preview right away.
I love this.
Thanks, guys.
Ooh, that's a relief.
It sure is great to know when something's coming.
Don't panic. Gift easy with Etsy.
It has definitely been a very dominant voice in my head. That's not the main focus anymore. Dieting, exercising, and adding GLP-1s through Roe is a game changer. I have such a sense of mental freedom since I started with Roe. Food no longer controls my thoughts. Family time used to revolve around food, and now it revolves around what we're gonna go do together.
Meet the shop that helps you lose weight. Get started at ro.co/TV.
My melasma made me feel really ugly. I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. I just hated taking photos.
How am I ever going to get rid of it?
Stop suffering from melasma. More than 600,000 people have regained their confidence with Muesli's prescription treatments.
In the first 2 weeks, I was amazed.
I looked at myself in the mirror and I just thought, I'm back.
I've been telling everybody about it. It's been life-changing.
Find the real you again. Go to muesli.com/TV.
I feel like I lose track of at least $500 a month.
Yeah, maybe that's because you still use spreadsheets. Haven't you heard of Rocket Money?
No, but you're probably gonna cut me off and tell me about it.
It's an app that automatically tracks your spending in real time, lowers your bills, and finds and cancels sneaky subscriptions.
Okay, I'm listening, but how does that help me with my $500?
Easy answer. The app can also help you make a budget that works for your income, and anytime you get close to your spending limits, which it sounds like you do regularly, it alerts you.
Sign me up.
Download Rocket Money today.
Never clean your gutters again with LeafGuard. LeafGuard's seamless design keeps leaves, pests, and sediment out while directing water away from your home, giving you peace of mind that your home and family are protected from water damage with the industry's premier maintenance-free gutter system. Call 844-6LeafGuard right now for a free estimate and save 20% plus $500 off your purchase and installation. LeafGuard. Get it today, protected for life.
When you use Angie for your home projects, you know all your jobs will be jobs done well. Roof repair? Done well. Kitchen sink install? Done well. Deck upgrades? Done well. Angie's been connecting homeowners with skilled pros for nearly 30 years, so we know the difference between done and done well. So the next time you have a project, join the millions of homeowners who use Angie to care for their home. Hire high-quality, certified pros at Angie.com.
MSNBC Live Democracy 2024, Saturday, September 7th in Brooklyn, New York. Join your favorite MSNBC hosts at our premier live audience event to break down all that's at stake in this historic election. Visit msnbc.com/democracy 2024 to buy your tickets today.
You know, if she doesn't have a teleprompter, she can't even speak. Did you see her the other night? They put a camera in her face. She can't even talk. We just went through 4 years. Let's not go through another 4 years.
That was Donald Trump disparaging Vice President Harris's speaking skills at his rally in Atlanta just moments ago. With Harris's presidential campaign gaining more and more momentum, the speculation about who she will choose as her running mate is heating up. As we've mentioned, the Harris campaign is in the final stages of announcing her running mate. NBC News reports that the short list has been narrowed down to 6, which include 4 governors, 1 senator, and the Secretary of Transportation. Harris is holding meetings with all 6 contenders throughout the weekend. Former Attorney General Eric Holder is also said to be consulting with Harris on who she should choose. He's actually running her vice presidential vetting process. Here he is arriving at the vice president's residence earlier today, looking all cool. All of this is happening as Donald Trump holds another campaign rally in Atlanta tonight at the same venue where Vice President Harris spoke to a crowd of 10,000 enthusiastic supporters on Tuesday. Earlier in the day, Trump unleashed a social media insult blitz against Vice President Harris. Joining me now, former Senator Doug Jones. He's a former U.S. Attorney for Alabama and distinguished senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. And Tara Setmeyer, the co-founder and CEO of the Seneca Project and resident scholar at the UVA Center for Politics. Thank you both very much for coming back to the Saturday show. So in the tease to this, I talked about the front page story in the Washington Post earlier in the week that said, you know, Trump's people want him to talk about policies, but he keeps talking about the vice president's race and gender. I think I know why he's doing it. Well, he's doing it because he thinks it works. Senator Jones, do you think it will work?
No, not at all, Jonathan. I mean, Donald Trump just gets more like himself every day, despite the the many advisors that he's got. He just can't help himself. This is not going to work. He has got whoever that kind of rhetoric appeals to. He's got those folks, and they're going to either turn out or they're not going to turn out. But he's got those folks, and he's certainly, that kind of rhetoric is not appealing to the broad section of America, the middle of America, any independents that might be out there, any people in America that just believe in the Constitution, the rule of law, and an equal opportunity for everybody. They don't like that, and I think that that is a major flaw, not just in a campaign, but in him.
Yeah, and you know, Tara, Trump, okay, fine, he doesn't want to talk about her record. Why won't he talk about what he wants to do with another 4 years?
Because he doesn't know what he wants to do for another 4 years beyond retribution. He doesn't have a plan other than, whoa, I don't know, Project 2025 and whatever the Heritage Foundation and the right-wing extremists tell him to do. It has never been about governing for Donald Trump. It's never actually been about policy. We've heard this over and over again, that he never took an interest in policy. He didn't read his presidential daily briefings. This is not about that. This has always been about his ego. He's a malignant narcissist, and he cannot stand the idea of a woman of color in power beating him. That's why he's name calling. We know how he really feels. Out of the heart, so does the mouth speak. It's obvious, his disdain that he has, not only for women, but women of color. So the insults and continuing to do this is digging a hole for him. We all know that, okay, this plays to his base, which is another whole discussion as to why it does. But this does not play to the moderate swing state voters, particularly women. So as long as he continues to do this, you're going to have women crawling over broken glass to vote for Kamala Harris. They may have voted for Donald Trump in the past, but they're sick and tired of this nonsense now. And he keeps doing this over and over again, and this is not a winning strategy at all. Keep it up.
Right. So let's talk about something happy, and that is the conversations that are happening this weekend between the current vice president and the men who are hoping to be her vice president. Senator Jones, of the six fellas there on the screen, who do you think is the one who would best serve Vice President Harris as her running mate?
You know, Jonathan, I got to tell you, I have studiously avoided trying to give an opinion in public on that, and I'm going to continue that today. That is six great candidates. I mean, they really are. They are true public servants. That shows the strength, I think, of the Democratic Party's bench that we have that exists today and in the future. So I think the vice president is going to be looking very closely at someone who's compatible, someone that can help not only in the short term with the election, but mainly in the long term. And quite frankly, you want to make sure, and I know that, Eric Holder is a good friend, and I know he has done an incredible job of vetting these candidates, unlike what I think the Republicans did with J.D. Vance. The bottom line, you don't want to go to a rally like Donald Trump did today with your vice president speaking and the people behind them holding up signs saying you're fired. That's not a good look.
Tara, you're not a former, you're not a Democrat, and you're not a former member of the Senate. Therefore, let me ask you: who do you think of the six guys? Who do you think Vice President Harris should pick as her running mate?
Oh, I don't know. Listen, I think that the choice really is probably between Shapiro and Kelly. They both have considerable upside for her. And I mean, it's tough. It's a tough call because it's a tough call. But I think that if she picks any one of them, and to the senator's point, it goes to show you that the bench is very deep for the Democrats. And that's a good sign for them moving forward as far as the future is concerned, right? It's supposed to be a future forward election, and every single one of those potential vice presidents represents that. I particularly like Shapiro and Kelly. I think that they both bring really strong upside to her. Kelly, obviously coming from a border state in Arizona, and the border and immigration being a pain point for Kamala Harris. He also has an amazing resume as being an astronaut and a former military pilot. pilot, Gabby Giffords, and her amazing story of recovery from that horrible shooting. I mean, it reads very well on paper, but do they get along? Can they govern together? We don't know. That's what the vetting process is for. And then obviously Josh Shapiro with his popularity in Pennsylvania, 60+%. Pennsylvania, a crucial state, a must-win state for the Democrats. And again, he's a moderate and he's very well spoken.
Right.
He's a good advocate for her agenda. So I think that like I said, either one of them would be great. Even Governor Beshear from Kentucky would be great too.
Yeah.
He speaks moderate red state language, and that's exactly what Kamala Harris needs. So we'll see. We'll know in a couple days.
Right. My intention was to tell everybody who I think she should pick, but looking at those 6 faces, I'm like, it's like going shopping and trying to figure out, okay, which designer do I actually want to buy? I don't know. They're all so great. Doug and Tara are going to be with me after the break. We're going to talk about more things, including the historic prisoner exchange between the United States and Russia, the big win for America, and President Biden has turned Donald Trump into a sore loser. Keep it here. You're watching The Saturday Show.
All the parts you need at the prices you want. Guaranteed to fit every time. So you can keep your ride or die alive.
Democracy is egalitarian, which means it's for everyone. But it also, I think, is a divinely inspired gift of our forefathers to show us that we can lead ourselves.
All right, back with me, former Senator Doug Jones and Tara Setmeyer. Okay, so the Biden-Harris administration was able to get 4 Americans, that includes 1 American green card holder, home out of being wrongfully imprisoned in Russia. The vice president tweeted out a nice little statement saying, "We celebrate the release of Paul, Evan, Alsu, and Vladimir and others who are unjustly held in Russia." And there you see Paul Whelan coming off the plane the other night. Donald Trump, on his bootleg social media platform, writes a whole screed. But the key thing is he writes, "Our negotiators are always an embarrassment to us." Senator Jones, why? I thought this sort of thing was supposed to be universally celebrated, and yet Donald Trump can't seem to fix his lips to say, you know, great, they're home. Senator, you're muted. There's a big red microphone.
If only Donald Trump
it's not
was
on his
capable of doing
Go ahead,
that.
Tara, while the senator gets it figured out.
I'll tell you what this is about. It's a temper tantrum. Donald Trump threw a temper tantrum because President Biden was doing what he does really well, which is be president of the United States and a statesman. Because President Biden actually represents everything that's great about America, and Donald Trump represents everything that isn't great about America. Donald Trump hates America, actually. So does MAGA. So he doesn't like the fact that President Biden achieved something as wonderful as bringing home our wrongfully held Americans in Russia. This is what presidents do. So the fact that he would do this, why is anybody surprised, Jonathan? This is what he does. Yeah. There is no unifying. People were trying to gaslight America into believing that somehow Donald Trump changed, if there was some kind of unifying message. We all know that's BS. That lasted all of 20 minutes during the speech that he awkwardly read at the RNC that somebody else wrote for him. So this is a perfect example of that. It should be universally celebrated, but Trump is incapable of doing that. Incapable. Another reason why he's unfit.
You know, I never bought for a minute, Tara, when word came out that, oh, he's ripped up his speech and he's going to be totally... I was like, have y'all been watching him since June 16th, 2015?
Right.
There is no way.
There's no pivot.
Yeah,
there's no pivot.
No pivot. None at all. I think we're still working on getting Senator Jones back. But while we're doing that, Tara, and I hesitate to bring this up simply because it's a story that is old, has been, it's a story about an affair during the second gentleman's first marriage that, the second gentleman put out a statement, acknowledging responsibility. His first wife put out a statement saying, hey, look, we've dealt with this and we're all fine now. I bring it up only to ask, do you think this will have any impact at all on the presidential race?
No. I have a couple words to say why. Donald Trump cheated on every wife he ever had. Stormy Daniels, okay? I mean, Donald Trump has 3 wives and 5 kids, and we're gonna pass judgment on the second gentleman? Listen, people make mistakes, and at least he was man enough to admit it and moved on. Donald Trump is still trying to tell the American people he didn't sleep with Stormy Daniels. Like, stop. So I just think that this is terrible that this is coming out now, and that anyone who passes judgment on the second gentleman in his past is a hypocrite if they don't feel the same about Donald Trump.
I hesitated asking the question, but I'm so glad I asked you the question, Tara, because you brought it home. Tara Setmeyer, thank you very much for coming back to the Saturday show. Senator Jones, we'll see you the next time. Next, did Kamala Harris really put the parents of kids who missed school in jail? No. And when we come back, I'm going to set the record straight on what she did do as San Francisco DA. Stay with us for more of the Saturday show on MSNBC.
What drew me to Smalls is that it's fresh food and he loves it. He's obsessed with it, actually. Bruce means the world to me because he is my baby and he deserves nothing but the best.
Hers can help you achieve your weight loss goals through a range of treatments, including GLP-1 injections, plus support for nutrition, hydration, sleep, and movement. GLP-1 injections starting at $199 per month. Get started today.
at forhers.com.
This is an opportunity to come together, to stand up for what we want as Americans and voters, and not just sit there and accept division as the outcome. It's a chance to unite.
One of the things I like about what I get to do is that each day is pretty unique. I might wake up and find out there's a brand new poll out, and I want to dive into it and get something on air about that poll. Or I might find out that there's not a lot of new numbers in the world today, and so today's going to be a day I'm going to spend researching, learning about a state, about the different counties, about the voter history, about the demographic trends, and just committing that all to memory. The only way to really be prepared is to get it all in my brain ahead of time.
Ever since Kamala Harris became the de facto Democratic presidential nominee, Republicans are talking an awful lot about her time as a California prosecutor, particularly the accusation that she jailed parents whose kids were chronically absent from school, otherwise known as truancy. Whitley Yates, the director of diversity for Indiana's Republican Party, even highlighted that claim right here on last week's The Sunday Show.
I'm talking about, like she stated, when she was a prosecutor and the way in which she prosecuted parents for the truancy. I'm talking about when she...
Not a single parent went to jail for that, by the way.
And did. And she...
So that's incorrect.
When she was...
Let me pick up on Amisha Cross's not a single parent rebuttal and set the record straight on this. It's true. Kamala Harris never sent parents to jail for their kids' truancy. As San Francisco DA, Harris was heavily invested in ending truancy. She explained in a 2009 op-ed, quote, "I see what happens on the back end of school failures. Young lives are being lost to street violence or prison time at an appalling rate. We must also take seriously the task of keeping our kids in school." 3 data points drove her to act. 44% of truant students were in elementary school. 94% of all homicide victims in San Francisco under the age of 25 were high school dropouts. And 2/3 of California prison inmates were high school dropouts. So Harris launched a program aimed at kids missing a lot of school, 60 to 80 days out of a 180-day school year. Struggling families were linked to resources they needed to help keep their kids in
Our cleaning pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips that absorb and lock dirt away. And it has a 360-degree swivel head that goes places a regular mop just can't. So you can clean your home faster than ever. Don't mop harder, mop smarter with this Swiffer Power Mop.
Meet the Jennifers. Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. Each planning their future through the Chase mobile app. Gen X is planning a summer in Portugal with some help from JP Morgan Wealth Plan. Let's go, Whiskers. Gen Y is working with a banker to budget for her birthday. You only turned 30 once. And Gen Z, her credit's golden. Hello, new apartment. 3 gens getting ahead with Chase. Solutions that grow with you. One bank for now, for later, for life. Chase, make more of what's yours.
When I grow up, I want to be an actor.
So why don't you act like a good sister and get me some more buffalo wings?
On second thought, I want to be a director. Let's try a scene where you go get your own.
Can we get some more lemon pepper wings in this scene?
Ooh, and honey teriyaki too.
Ooh, good note.
Have your people call my people.
So don't let that chip spoil your trip.
Safe like repair, safe like
Is that a chip?
That happens a lot, but SafeLight could have helped. A chip repair is faster, cheaper, and easier than a new windshield. And with your insurance, it's usually free. So don't let that chip spoil your trip. Book today.
Safe like repair, safe like replace. Nothing dims my light like a migraine. With Nurtec ODT, I found relief.
The only migraine medication that helps treat and prevent all in one.
To those with migraine, I see you.
For the acute treatment of migraine with or without aura and the preventive treatment of episodic migraine in adults. Don't take if allergic to Nurtec ODT. Allergic reactions can occur even days after using. Most common side effects were nausea, indigestion, and stomach pain.
It's time we all shine. Talk to a healthcare provider about Nurtec ODT from Pfizer.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us. And a great deal on Galaxy Z Fold 6 for a total value of $1,250. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
Is your shower trying to tell you something? Is getting in and out of the bathtub becoming a safety concern? Are you worried about the cost of a bathroom remodel that could go on for weeks and weeks? Well, now you can have a gorgeous new bath or shower that's safer at a price you can afford with a one-day jacuzzi bath remodel.
It was done the same day. We did not have to wait. It is amazing.
I would give this whole experience an A+. I definitely wish I would have called sooner.
From soft close shower doors and adjustable shower heads to features like grab bars and custom seats that combine safety and style. It's never been easier. Get your free design consultation, schedule your one-day installation, and start loving your new bath or shower right away.
Only weeks left to get waived installation and no interest and no payments for up to 1 year. Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-991-0632. That's 800-991-0632. Call now.
Good evening. Tonight on Amen, how Trump's attacks on VP Harris are falling flat, leading Trump back to his old, familiar style of racial politics. Here's a big question. Will we ever see Trump debate Harris? We know she's willing. Is he? And an update on rising tensions in the Middle East, where the U.S. has bolstered its military presence given fears of a possible retaliatory strike from Iran on Israel. I'm Sam Stein in for Ayman Moadeen. Let's do it. All right. Donald Trump took to the stage tonight at the Georgia State University Convocation Center, the exact same venue where his rival, Vice President Kamala Harris, held a packed rally earlier this week. Now, naturally, Trump began with a totally substantive attack on Harris's policies.
We're going to defeat crazy Kamala. Kamala. You know, there's about 19 different ways of saying it. She only likes 3. Kamala, she goes, Kamala. No, it's Kamala.
Very substantive. For nearly 2 weeks, we've watched the former president and his surrogates go on offense against Harris, and the results have been, at times,